think we're all doing the best we can. I think a lot of us have really pulled back in closer to home, and we're really establishing better relationships with our stakeholders that are definitely going to pay dividends when we do start coming out of this. I think we will have many more community partners coming out of this than we had going into it.
Hey everybody, great news. The Destination Marketing Podcast is going on the road over the next couple of months. We're actually starting with Tennessee. We're going to be in Tennessee the week of September 8th. I say September 8th because the 7th is Labor Day, so we'll be there right after Labor Day. We're going to be in Tennessee then, and then a little bit later we're going to be in Mississippi, and we're also going to hit North Carolina that month. And if you, in your destination or your state, would like to be featured on the Destination Marketing Podcast on the road and do an in-person episode, whether it's in one of your attractions, eateries, whatever, we'd love to come do a live episode there. So we're tired of being quarantined. We're getting out of the office, and we're excited to come to your destination and feature your destination on the Destination Marketing Podcast. Let us know if you want to be a part of it. Email me at adam@relicagency.com, and we'll schedule a time to get the Destination Marketing Podcast in your neck of the woods. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. I'm your host, Adam Stoker. Got a great show for you today. A friend of mine from Little Rock, Arkansas. Her name is Gretchen Hall. Gretchen, welcome to the show.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, we're excited to have you. And give me your actual title. I didn't want to mess it up as I was saying it there. So give us your real title there.
Sure. I'm the president and CEO of the Little Rock Convention and Visitors Bureau.
You know, president and CEO isn't that hard to remember, and yet I somehow managed to forget it. So sorry about that. I'll make sure to get that right for the rest of the show.
No problem.
All right. So, well, Gretchen, you've heard the show, and you've heard some of the questions that we ask at the very beginning, and we love to ask these questions and kind of get to know you a little bit at the beginning of the show. And the first question we want to ask you is, what is your dream destination? If you could go anywhere in the world, where would that be?
You know, I think there are so many destinations that are still on my bucket list. My dream destination would have diverse opportunities for outdoor adventure, yet a lot of performing arts, culture, and an amazing culinary scene. And I know there's a lot of destinations that probably fit that bill. And like I said, I've got pages and pages on my bucket list.
Yeah, we've got there are a lot of destinations that fit that bill. Maybe what's the next one on your bucket list? Instead of your ultimate dream, what's the next one you're planning to visit?
Sure. So actually, I had Spain scheduled for late 2020 or early 21, and unfortunately that's on hold right now.
Oh man, aren't we all on hold right now?
That's right. That's right.
So what is it about Spain? I mean, obviously they have those three criteria that you laid out there, but what are you hoping to do when you go to Spain?
You know, I've heard from a couple of my friends that have been there, and I've got a few travel partners that I travel with that have not been there. So that was just kind of next up on our bucket list to check off.
Oh, so you've got a team that you go with then?
I do. My mother and I primarily, but then I have two or three others that jump in and out depending on where we're headed.
Oh, how fun. It's always nice to have a group that you're comfortable traveling with. And we've all had the situation where you travel with somebody that maybe you weren't comfortable traveling with, and the trip didn't go as well. So you've kind of whittled it down to that core group, haven't you?
That's exactly right.
Great. Okay, well let's talk about your favorite place you've ever been. What's your favorite destination you've ever visited?
Okay, so I would have to say there are two. One was traveling throughout Italy. There are still locations in Italy I'd love to go back for a second visit. And then kind of tied for my favorite destination would be South Africa and a safari that I went on about a year and a half ago.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Those are some really good destinations. I've got to hear about this safari. Give me a couple of the highlights of that trip.
Well, it was a lot to do with animals. Of course, we did multiple safaris, but it was just magnificent. It was beautiful. We were able to hit three different countries in and around South Africa. But I was also amazed at just the beautiful coastline and outdoors of the country of South Africa as well. And that was a little unexpected for me, in addition to, of course, the wildlife and the safaris.
Now, when you went out to the wildlife safari, I mean, are we seeing lions catching their prey, or what did you actually get to see when you were out there? What animals did you see?
Well, we saw, of course, the Big Five. We also saw what they named the Ugly Five and the Fast Five. They've got all kinds of titles, but we had a really amazing tour guide that was literally with us for 2 weeks.
Oh,
To
wow.
five different national reserves and one private reserve. We got to see all of these animals in their native wildlife. I really loved seeing the giraffes run, because of their elongated gait and the way they run. That was pretty impressive. We got to see the huge migrations of elephants coming in and out for their morning and afternoon water. And we did get to see a lot of lions, a few in action, and that was a little intense because I felt like they were pretty close to our vehicle. So, but it was really amazing to watch these beautiful animals in their native habitat.
That sounds like an incredible experience. I love wildlife. I love getting out into the outdoors in the wilderness, but I can't say that I've ever experienced anything remotely close to a safari. It just sounds unreal.
It was amazing.
Awesome. Well, that's good stuff. It's fun to kind of get to know you, your travel habits. Now we know your core group of travelers there that you go with. Tell me a little bit about you and how you got into tourism.
Sure. So I was a basketball player, a collegiate basketball player, loved all kinds of sports, still do.
Where at?
At a small liberal arts college in Northeast Arkansas called Lyon College. Um,
Awesome.
so, so basketball afforded me a complimentary education, but also a ton of great friends and life experiences. And I traveled quite extensively playing summer basketball when I was in high school and even into college. And I worked for a company that ran tournaments in the summer. I wanted to travel in the summer during my collegiate career, and I started working for a company very similar to like AAU that ran national tournaments out of Phoenix, Arizona, Colorado Springs, and Dallas, Texas. And so that company hired me, and I worked for them for 4 years in between my college years. And they hired me again right out of college full time. And so I got to spend a lot of time in those three destinations. But as it turned out, they really needed someone just on a temporary basis in each of the destinations, and it just wasn't going to work out full time. So I found myself back at home right about the time 9/11 hit. So not a great environment to start looking for a job, but
No, especially in tourism.
and of course at that point I didn't even know what tourism was really. I had been on the sports event side of the business, and back, I'm dating myself a little bit, but back then you looked for job opportunities in the local newspaper. And so I
Right.
started pulling the statewide newspaper and looking for jobs and in various destinations. Wasn't really sure I wanted to stay in Arkansas, even though I was born and raised in Arkansas. And so just started applying for jobs. And lo and behold, the convention center in Little Rock had an opening for an event planner. And so that was kind of right up my alley. I thought, well, I've been doing events for quite some time, and applied for that job. They needed someone that could talk sports because they were hosting a lot of additional sporting events in the convention center. And so I landed my first job with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, because in Little Rock, the Convention Bureau actually manages the centers. And so that was kind of my intro into tourism. And then I learned about the sales and marketing side of the organization and the tourism side. And I already had a real affection for travel, and thought, I think I found my place.
Oh, how fun! And over that time, grew and kind of worked your way up to president and CEO of the organization.
Yeah, yeah. So I moved from the event side of the business over to the marketing and communication side several years later, and have now been in November of this year. It will be 19 years. So time flies when you're having fun.
That's right. Well, tell me a little bit about Little Rock as a destination. Just give me the general overview.
Sure. So we are located really dead center of the state of Arkansas. Arkansas is known as the natural state. We've got some amazing outdoor amenities, and Little Rock is also has those qualities. The Arkansas River runs right through our downtown. We've got a beautiful downtown riverfront park that has some amazing public sculpture in it. We have got miles and miles of biking trails, hiking trails. We've got a small mountain toward the west of Little Rock called Pinnacle Mountain, and the views atop that mountain are just beautiful. So, a lot of outdoor adventure and outdoor amenities in the heart of Little Rock. Little Rock is the largest metropolitan area in the state of Arkansas. So, we also have some really great performing arts and cultural museums here. So we've got kind of the largest conglomerate of that, the state's largest convention center and performing arts theater as well, and a really growing culinary scene in Little Rock.
Well, that sounds like a lot going on for one destination. I've been to Little Rock, but probably not for 25 years. It's been a
And it
very
looks a
long
little
time.
different.
I was gonna say you've been there 19 years. You have to have seen a lot of change both in Little Rock and in the industry. I'd love to hear a little bit about kind of what you've seen over the years of your
Sure.
time there.
Sure. So I was really no stranger to Little Rock. I was born and raised in Arkansas, but not here. And so I was pretty familiar with what Little Rock had to offer. But when I started at the Bureau in 2001, the Clinton Presidential Library had been announced and the location had been selected. And it's actually located in downtown Little Rock, kind of the east side of downtown Little Rock, in what used to be at that point the old abandoned warehouse district. No one would go to that area of town, and so, but it was very strategic in locating it. It's right on the Arkansas River. And since 2001, when that construction began and it opened in late 2004, we have seen just an amazing boom of downtown renaissance and growth in Little Rock. And that's everything from high rise residential to a lot of additional restaurants and nightlife and entertainment. We have multiple now neighborhoods in downtown that all have very distinct characteristics and feels to them. It has just been amazing to kind of watch that transformation, especially of our downtown area that was kind of anchored by the Clinton Presidential Library. But to our roots and our core,
Hey, Gretchen.
we, yep,
Real quick, I just want to tell you, I have learned to admire so much these forward-thinking community planners that will look at a rundown part of a city or a downtown and say, you know what, if we put something special here, we're going to see this thing transform. And that is such it's a risk to take, but what a reward, right? To see that area transform over time.
absolutely. And if you go back and see the pictures of that area, some people would think you are absolutely crazy to do that. But what it has transformed in now is just really nothing shy of amazing.
Awesome. So sorry to interrupt you. I just wanted to
No,
kind of
no
call
worries.
that out.
Yeah, what I was going to say is kind of at our roots in the core of Little Rock is a lot of civil rights history. So we were also, right at the core of the 1957 kind of crisis, with Little Rock Central High being one of the first schools in the South to be integrated. And President Eisenhower actually had to send troops in to protect the 9 Black students that were integrating Central High at the time, that now are known as the Little Rock Nine. We've got an amazing national park and museum that really tell their story. But that's not the only component of civil rights that we have here in African American history. And so that's a whole nother side of our product that we're well known for here in the South.
Wow. Wow. That is there's some sad history, there's some amazing history, and being one of the first to integrate, and what a great component of your destination to be able to have that history there to promote.
Absolutely.
Well, what about in the industry? What have you seen change in the industry over time?
I have been in the industry now right at 19 years. And it's funny because when I was working on my CDME years ago, the internet, or really social media, was at its infancy, right? And my CDME paper, I should dust that off. It's, years and years old now. But I mean, this Facebook thing, and of course, half of Twitter didn't even exist yet, or it had just started, and everyone was trying to grapple with, is this a fad? How are we going to utilize it? And now, just the technology, from not only just social media, but the technology and advertising placements and the big brother side of technology. It's a little creepy, but it also is very effective. And so I think the one big change for our industry is the technology and how we're able to reach people and places, and tell our story and connect with people that may not otherwise have ever known about our destination. There's been tremendous strides, and it continues to change daily.
Yeah, it's fun to watch how technology continues to develop the industry as
Yeah.
more and more innovation comes about. I also find it interesting that, having started your career right around 9/11, which was one of the major crises that have hit the travel industry, and then to have been at Little Rock through the crash of 2008, it's fascinating to me to be talking to someone that has been in their destination as long as you have, because you've either watched or participated in the navigation of these crises. And I've got to imagine that that's been helpful in preparing you for something like the COVID crisis that's hit the industry today.
I would hope so. There's, of course, no real roadmap or playbook for this one that we're in the middle of today, but have certainly leaned on a lot of my colleagues and a lot of our national associations for research and also advice. And we're kind of we definitely are all in this together. So we're figuring it out. We have, obviously pivoted. We made immediate budget cuts, but we also pulled in even closer to home and really started a lot of community things. And we were already ingrained in the community here on a pretty large scale because of the facilities that we operate. We already owned and operated a variety of community events on an annual basis. And so I felt like we were well positioned within our community anyway. But when COVID hit, it kind of took it to a whole new level. We had to really take a pause and say, okay, where can we provide value, and who do we need to be supporting? And not only our industry partners, but we need to be supporting our residents and our community until we can get back to a point where it's safe for travelers to return.
Yeah, I want to dive a little bit deeper on that. We're going to take a little break, and then we'll talk about how Little Rock has really approached this crisis.
Okay.
Okay, guys, since we started the Destination Marketing Podcast a little over a year ago, I've had several destinations reach out and say, hey, could you help me start a podcast? And at first we were kind of like, well, no, that's not really what we do. But after enough requests, we said, you know what, let's explore this. And we've created a turnkey program for destinations where we will produce, we will host, we will edit, and we will publish your podcast for your destination on a weekly, bi-weekly, or monthly basis. And all you have to do is show up and answer some questions. We're really excited about this program. We've got a few destinations that have been doing really, really well with their podcasts. And if you've ever thought about creating a podcast for your destination, but you don't have all the equipment, or you don't have the expertise or any of that type of stuff, let us take that off your hands. Let Relic handle your podcast creation and production. And all you have to do is show up, and answer questions about all the amazing things there are to do within your destination. So let me know if you're interested. Email me at adam@relicagency.com and we'll get you set up on this podcast program. So Gretchen, you mentioned some of the things that you guys are having to do as you approach this crisis. I'd love to have you go a little bit deeper on a couple of these things. You had a campaign, and I feel bad because I've heard this story so many times. You had a brand new campaign that you were just launching as COVID hit. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that Big on Little Rock campaign?
Sure. So we did. It's kind of perfect timing. Late February, we launched or kind of relaunched an advertising campaign that was extremely popular back in the early '90s, and it was called Big on Little Rock. And it really plays to two aspects. One, our external advertising for visitors. It really plays on not only the words big and little, but what our research tells us is that if someone is not familiar with Little Rock, they don't have a negative connotation. They just simply have really a blank slate. They don't know what to expect when they get here. They are always pleasantly surprised by the amount of amenities that we have, the type of destination we have, the people and the culture that we have, and all of our offerings. And so the play on words also helps us articulate that there are a lot of things to do here. There's big adventure in Little Rock. And then the flip side of it, it also is a prideful campaign for those of us that call Little Rock home. And it's personal. I am personally big on Little Rock. I want to promote Little Rock, and I love the destination that I live in. And so we relaunched that campaign with a little different look and feel, and in late February, and then of course COVID hit. So we did like most destinations and paused a lot of our advertising. We have since pulled back some advertising a little closer to home and kind of retooled that messaging. But timing, we'll be able to capitalize on that campaign at some point in the future.
Yeah, I am a big fan of resurrecting nostalgic campaigns. I don't think it works in every destination, and I don't think every campaign is worthy of resurrection, right?
Sure.
But I do feel like that Big on Little Rock campaign that had so much equity over the years, to bring that back, I'm disappointed that we didn't get to see that come to full fruition, because I think it's a great campaign, and I love the community pride that comes along with it.
Yeah, we're having some fun with it locally, and again, we'll continue to grow that externally as we move back into our external markets.
Great, great. Well, let's talk about the campaign you had to kind of pivot to. You've, for one, when you got started, you really had to focus on education of your local stakeholders, and you mentioned several tactics that you were able to use to do that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that process?
Sure. So, a couple of things that we did just kind of immediately. I started producing a weekly industry update. It started out to really all of our industry partners, but the list has grown to a lot of just local leadership, individual residents, and that e-newsletter goes out weekly, and it provides a gamut of information. At first, it was really all providing resources about guidelines, restrictions, any new policies as it related to COVID, also resource pages for unemployment and job searches, and then resource pages for new restaurant hours and closures and locations, attraction offerings, or the ones that had to temporarily close. And so it was really just trying to provide resources. And then it moved into a lot of our industry research. Where do we think this is headed? What are our hotel situations looking like through STR data? And then it moved into, okay, now we're in this stay-at-home environment, so we don't want you to forget about what's in your backyard. And we created a lot of fun activities when schools shut down, whether that be downloadable coloring book pages or digital puzzles with photographs of Little Rock. We created a couple of online virtual tours of our local art and murals. We just launched another one for our sculpture so that people could enjoy those virtually at home and then download a map when they were ready to get back out and go experience that public art again in kind of an outdoor environment. So those were all things that we've continued to do and are continuing to do on a weekly basis to our community. We retooled our website with all of those different resource pages as well. And then we took that Big on Little Rock, our t-shirts that were so popular, and we opened an online store to sell those t-shirts, and then all of the proceeds went to this LR Cares initiative. And the LR Cares initiative provides funding for meals that are going to school children while the schools were shut down, and also to provide the PPE for some of our local frontline workers that needed additional stock and supply of that. And so we've raised over $10,000 for those initiatives through the sale of our Big on Little Rock t-shirts to our local residents.
Wow. Well, if there's one thing I'm hearing when the crisis hit, it's action. You guys did not sit back and wait for this thing to come to you. I think even your mayor got in on creating a video for the community. What was that video like?
Sure. So we have had tremendous support from our community, not just the mayor, but also news outlets, media that have provided complimentary advertising for some of our local programs. So the mayor has done a couple of videos for us, and one, of course, was for the sale of those T-shirts, where he was really promoting that Big on Little Rock T-shirt sales. We had one television station that put our Big on Little Rock T-shirts on all of their talent and created a free commercial to promote the sale of those t-shirts too. And all of that was done complimentary. It was simply ways that our local partners wanted to help and support each other. They said, we all need each other right now during this time period. When we launched our Big on Safety campaign to kind of promote businesses that were taking the guidelines and the CDC recommendations seriously and raising their hand to say, we're following all of these rules and we're providing a safe environment for our employees and our patrons, we kicked off the Big on Little Rock safety campaign, and the mayor was at the front of the line to lead us in that media and press conference, and also do some videos to help promote that as well.
Great, great. And I'm hearing big on safety. You've tried to take that Big on Little Rock campaign and modify it for what we're dealing with now. So you're
Sure.
even leveraging some of that campaign equity or nostalgia into this campaign, which I think is a brilliant move.
Absolutely.
Well, one of the programs, and this was one of the main reasons I wanted to get you on the show here to talk about this program, because I just love it, is as part of this whole process, you've come out with the Little Rock Rock Stars campaign. And people may think that that's like a battle of the bands type thing. That's not what this is, right? So
That's
tell us
right.
a little bit about the Little Rock Rock Stars.
Sure. Early on, we started seeing just some amazing outpouring from community people and community businesses helping other community businesses and community people. And it really speaks to the core of our people and who we are in our community that we already knew, but now all of these great shining examples were coming to the table with businesses really pivoting and supporting other businesses. And so we decided to start compiling all of these stories, if you will, and all of these examples of just great community effort. And we said, these people are rock stars in our own community, and we really need to find a way to talk about that and tell their story on a bigger platform. And a couple of examples, our local distillery, who has a wide variety of liquor, vodkas, gins, bourbons, they immediately pivoted and said, you know what, there is such a shortage in hand sanitizer. We can make that. We have all the ingredients to make it. They started pivoting to hand sanitizer solution. They distributed the first couple of batches just complimentary. They told individuals, if you're out of hand sanitizer and you need some, come bring your bottle and refill it, and we'll provide it complimentary. They have now started mass producing that and, of course, selling it. But they just pivoted so quickly in order to find a need where they could fill in that niche. We've had companies out at our Little Rock port that had historically made athletic clothing and have pivoted to make the cloth mask in mass production for businesses and entities. And so we also saw in our restaurant community, lots of our locally owned restaurants were providing meals to other locally owned restaurants. And so they were kind of trading off feeding their own family, if you will, and providing meals for their community. The Clinton Presidential Center partnered with World Central Kitchen, and they have produced hundreds of thousands of meals every single day. They have hundreds of volunteers putting these meals together for the school children at first when the schools were closed, because a lot of our school kids, that's where they get 2 meals a day. And when the schools closed, a lot of people were really worried about that food insecurity. They also now provide meals in the evening, and a lot of our food truck owners have volunteered to deliver all of those meals to a variety of locations within our city. And so it's just amazing stories like that. We had a local banner company that raised his hand and said, you know what, I'm trying to keep my people at work, and we've got all of this inventory. I'll make a complimentary banner for every restaurant that has had to close their in-room dining, but that is now offering takeout or delivery services, to be able to promote your services on these complimentary banners. And the list just kind of goes on and on. And so we're trying to compile all of those stories to really tell that story of community love and caring here in Little Rock.
I love that. I love how the community has really pulled together and just tried to help each other. And I love that you're telling those stories. Tell me how you've distributed these stories.
So some of them have simply been distributed on social media at this point. We are trying to pull in a lot more of them to create more video and blog posts and really beef up some of that distribution. At this point, there have been several news stories that we have helped push to the local media. So the local media, a variety of our media outlets have picked up on different stories. Each outlet's kind of telling some different stories. And then we've utilized some of them on our social media platforms, but we're still trying to develop additional ways to compile some of these stories and tell an even, bigger story about the impact.
Yeah, I'm glad that you got the PR side of it going as well and get the news media telling that story. It's just a way to help all the businesses kind of collectively make it through this, and it really takes a community to do it, and it's fun to see how you guys have pulled together.
Yeah, and these are uplifting stories, and we all need a little uplift right now when we're dealing with all of this uncertainty and unknown.
Yeah, don't we ever? Well, it's good to hear about the rock stars that you have in your community. And you talk about good news. You mentioned that you're starting to see signs of recovery as far as travel goes. Tell me a little bit about what you're starting to see.
We are. So we, on the leisure side, is primarily where we're seeing an uptick in our hotels. We're finally starting to move in the right direction for our hotels and continue to grow on our occupancy and ADR and RevPAR, all of those statistics that our hotels need to survive. It is going to be a long, slow recovery, but we're starting to see positive numbers. July was even better month than June, and June was better than May. And so every month we're able to maintain the positive growth numbers and add to them. On the convention center side, I think it's going to be a little bit longer road to recovery, but a lot of our outdoor amenities and our museums are also reporting back to us that they are seeing increased foot traffic. And it's a mixed bag, whether that's from visitors that from a drive market or whether it's Arkansas residents that are coming back out, which we're really promoting, support your local community and support your state product and consider a staycation or at least a stay close to home vacation this summer. And we're seeing a lot of people really take advantage of that.
Yeah, I think that pent-up demand that everybody in the industry is talking about, I think your kind of your bravest components of your audience are starting to be willing to book some of those leisure trips and to venture out and get away from the house. And I'm glad you guys have a real focus on safety, and you've got the PPE, and so as people start to come back, they can feel safe in your destination. And it's exciting to see those signs of recovery.
Yes, very, very much. They're a welcome sign, and we're hoping that we can absolutely build on that as well.
Great. Gretchen, I'm going to ask you a question a little bit related to your experience in the industry. Have you made any mistakes along the way that you feel like our audience could benefit from hearing so they don't make them as well?
Oh, I'm sure the list of mistakes are long as you don't. I try not to make the same mistake twice, and so, some mistakes you what you learn from them can be even more beneficial. So, I don't know if it was a mistake or accidental. For us, I don't think I'd call it a mistake. Maybe accidental luck, more or less. But because we manage the facilities here in Little Rock, our city board needed more space to spread out, and they for their weekly city board meetings, and the mayor sits on our commission, and so he's very well entrenched in what all we do and extremely supportive of tourism. But some of the city directors know what we do a little bit more than others, and some don't understand exactly the breadth of what we do and the importance of our industry. And so, but having them meet inside our facilities and get to know more of our employees and be a lot closer to what we're doing on a daily basis has paid some dividends for us from that local advocacy efforts and perspective. And so I think that was something that came out of COVID. It was a necessity that they needed bigger space, and we managed that space for them, and we were able to put them in our facilities because most of our other business had canceled out, and that has allowed them to be even closer to what we do.
Oh, that's good. That's good. That's a good example of getting involved with those stakeholders and building those relationships, and those relationships that you're strengthening right now. It's not like they go away at the end of this crisis, right? You're going to be able to build on those, and maybe it accelerates that relationship building process over time.
That's right. I can give you one more quick example.
Yeah.
So I have been asked to, because we do have so much research that is available to us, and I'm providing that in these weekly updates. I was asked to give a couple of different presentations, all virtual, of course, on Zoom to a variety of different local groups. And so one of them was our local Rotary Club. And actually, I've spoken to a couple of our local Rotary clubs, but our downtown Rotary Club is one of the largest Rotary clubs in the country. They've got several hundred members, and of course, all types of businesses. And so, in my presentation, talking to them about the impact of tourism, the impact of COVID on tourism and the tourism recovery, what came out of that were a variety of business owners that said, Gretchen, how can we help tourism recover? We see the impact and the benefit of having a great tourism product and having visitors come to our destination. And so, when it's safe to travel again, how can we, as a local business, really help promote and grow tourism faster so that our recovery efforts are quicker than some of these projected national forecasts? And I just thought, that some of those local businesses we don't reach out to enough. That may not be in our industry. I heard that from a local banker. I heard that from a local real estate company, from an appraisal company, and they said, we want to do our part. What can we do? And of course, immediately I told them, you can help by supporting our nonprofits. You can help by having a staycation. You can help by promoting the great things about Little Rock on your own social media platforms, and kind of become additional marketing and advertisements for us. And we're providing them now with some of our photography, our blog post, so that they can share all of that information with their own feeds. And we're still trying to brainstorm, how do we tap into that offer as well. So sometimes we need to utilize those assets and the residents that are in our community that are our biggest cheerleader. They call this place home too.
And if you're not out there having those conversations, people don't know how to get involved. They don't even know it's something they can get involved in. So
Right.
getting out there and communicating with your stakeholders, I think that's a great piece of advice. And who knows the kind of unintended consequences that you can have, or partners that you didn't anticipate having just from having those conversations.
That's right. So we're brainstorming those options right now because we want to be able to capitalize on that offer.
Great. Well, Gretchen, this has been awesome. Is there anything I haven't asked you that you feel like would benefit our audience?
Well, I think we've kind of covered the gamut. If I think we're all doing the best we can. I think a lot of us have really pulled back in closer to home, and we're really establishing better relationships with our stakeholders that are definitely going to pay dividends when we do start coming out of this. I think we will have many more community partners coming out of this than we had going into it, and I think that's an exciting thing.
Awesome. Awesome. It's great to have a true Little Rock All-Star on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks for your time, Gretchen, and we'll talk to you soon.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Take care.
Okay, everyone, this has been another episode of the Destination Marketing Podcast. We hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please make sure to leave us a rating or review. That always helps the show. Other than that, if you haven't joined the LinkedIn group, Destination Marketers, or the Slack channel, Destination Marketers, make sure you get in there, and that's where we share a lot of the tangible content from the show. So other than that, thanks for listening, and have a great week. Today's episode is brought to you by Relic. As many of you know, I own an advertising agency called Relic, and we work specifically with tourism destinations. If there's any of you that are struggling with what to do next, or you've tried agencies that don't specialize in tourism, or if you've been using the local flavor for years and years and you're just looking for something new, I would say give us a call. Give us the opportunity to take a look at your plans, see what you're doing. Use our tourism knowledge and industry specialty to examine everything from your brand to your tactical execution and make recommendations of how to help. We'll do that assessment for free. We'll give you those recommendations for free. And if you like what we say, maybe you can hire us to execute on those plans. So kind of a risk-free opportunity to have us take a holistic look at everything you're doing, provide some recommendations, and you can kind of see us in action. If you're interested in having us do something like that, please send me an email directly at adam@relicagency.com. I would love to set that up with my team.